So let's talk about resumes. We're going to talk about resumes because that's going to help us also learn about what industry needs there are out there. And you start with a resume because a resume is something, you know, most people know a resume is where you list your job experience and you list your education and you list your, you know, maybe some fun things that you, clubs that you're a member of that might show that you are an interesting person. That's the old-fashioned view of a resume. Frankly, most resumes in today's world are stacked on desks and ignored, or they're scanned really fast by humans, or even more commonly, they never get in front of a human at all, ever. Most resumes today are scanned. They're, when you submit online to anything, the resume is scanned for keywords, and semi-intelligent tools go through that resume and pick out the keywords, and they match them to the position that that resume has been submitted to. And if there's sufficient match, then the resume is passed on to a human. So in many, many cases, resumes are never in front of a human, especially if you submit it online. In fact, a lot of friends and a lot of my students have complained that they submitted 5, 10, 20 different jobs, submitted for 20 different jobs online, and never got a single email response to 20 different jobs. And that's often because, number one, they're submitting to a job that's online that they are not a perfect match for in terms of their keywords. Keywords. What a keyword is in the resume are little words that match the requirement words in the job set. Those little words are extremely important. It's important that you embed those words in your resume. So let me talk to you about a website. This is just one that I grabbed really quickly right before class. And let me share my screen here. This is a website called, I guess it's Career Blog. And it's got a little explanation in here about what a resume keyword is. And a resume keyword is simply any word in that resume that matches a search word, a requirement word somewhere in somebody's job description. Any word or phrase, sometimes it's 2 or 3 words together, that match a search word or phrase in somebody's job description. By sprinkling these keywords in your resume, you optimize the fact that your resume can be searched properly. And when they spot those keywords, it automatically raises the score on your resume. And when it reaches a certain threshold, bam, you get passed through to a human being. So if you go look at through this resume, you can see that someone has highlighted the key words: coordinating a market policy, identifying new potential customers, pricing strategy. So they're not always just a single word. A lot of times they're phrases, you know, press releases, SEO. I mean, this is not our industry, so this is probably not our language. Down here at the bottom, English and Spanish. So this person can do English and Spanish, and as a matter of fact, French. Now, the reason why they highlighted all these terms is because those terms were in the job requirements. French wasn't. But this person coming out of the University of Chicago knows English, Spanish, and French. That's pretty darn impressive. I want a marketing person that knows multiple languages. That's pretty useful. So what they're selling here is software called ATS. It's Applicant Tracking System. And the thing is, people trying to hire you often have these ATS systems, this software designed to filter out the bad resumes. And therefore, your resume will never even get in front of anybody. So I think that's enough from this website that I'm talk about. So what I want to do is I want to give you guys there's a lovely YouTuber who put up a video 2 years ago about how to use LinkedIn to automatically understand what the keywords are for different job titles. And I put the link for it in week 3. We are in week 3. And but basically what I'm going to do is show you how to do it. What are the keywords for your job title? So let's go into LinkedIn. Let's see, where's my LinkedIn? There's my LinkedIn. Share my screen. Let's share some LinkedIn. All right, here is LinkedIn. There I am. Look, Diane Chang wants me to basically put my resume out there because there's lots of jobs available with my skill set. No, thank you, Diane. So in LinkedIn, you have the ability to connect with a whole variety of contacts, connections, as it were. And I have 95 connections. Actually, I don't do a great job of keeping up with my LinkedIn connections if I haven't LinkedIn for a year. But I do every once in a while update it, and I have some old friends and old colleagues that I occasionally, send a little message to through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a little bit like Facebook, but professional. But the cool thing about LinkedIn is you can create your resume in LinkedIn, and then your resume now is visible to a huge number of recruiters in the LinkedIn world, and they've got all sorts of cool tools to grab up and use your resume for job openings all over the place. So, so how do you do that? Let's talk about how you do it. First of all, you can go into your profile. So I'm going to click on my face, click on View Profile, and then we can see here is my resume. I hope there's not too much personal information out there. But yes, here I am. And we can see that I work at Hack and that I went to school at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. This is kind of an old picture of me. I think I've lost a little weight since that picture, but my hair has definitely changed color since that picture. So how do I create a resume with all the keywords? So how do I do that? So I click on More, and then right below, the second from the bottom is Build a Resume. So rather than uploading a resume, I could just upload a resume from a Word file or something. I would create from profile. And this is the key part. At this point, I can choose a job title. So who would suggest a job title that I might be interested in?
Coding.
Say again?
Coding. Like
Oh,
PLC programming, coding.
coding is such a generic term. That would be a terrible job title. No, how do I find a good job title? Well, I should go somewhere where somebody has jobs and see what titles are out there. Let's say I know about a lovely company around here that is hiring, right? And I am going to be trying to hired by them. So let's just change my share over to a LinkedIn. Yes. Oh, Phoenix Contact. Funny that. They're hiring mechatronics technicians, automation repair and maintenance. All right. So there's a potential good job title. Let's see if that's available from the list of titles in LinkedIn. So let's change my share to my LinkedIn. Where's LinkedIn? There it is. Okay. And here I am typing mechatronics. Oh, there it is, mechatronics technician. Let's see what happens. Apply. Bam. Okay. It already created a resume for me, which I think is kind of cool. It picked all the data out of my LinkedIn profile and built in that information into a resume. It gave me my experience. I used to work for my own business as a systems and data analyst. I used to work for TE. I used to be a product manager at an electric car charging company. Used to work at Hagerstown Community College and ran my own business. Oh, they even have my logo of my own business right there, Ferguson Systems. Cool. And even has some of my old jobs, like when I was a vice president of a Swiss company. Yeah, cool. There's all sorts of old stuff in there. But what's really important here is the keywords. Right here on the right, they have suggested keywords. And then you can click on, a change in the title, but right here on the right, you can see your keywords that are that it's suggesting for you. And oh no, look what they're doing. They are on now they're putting a paywall up on the keywords. Now you have to try premium to get 14 more keywords. Oh goodness. So the keywords they're offering here at the top for free are AutoCAD, troubleshooting, analytical skills, and continuous improvement. These are keywords that very often show up in a requirement for a job position in the mechatronics realm. Troubleshooting is probably the single most important job skill, period. Sometimes AutoCAD, analytical skills, yes, continuous improvement, the ability to understand how to do improvements. But apparently you need to get a premium subscription to get all of the keywords. But I wanted to show you this process, and I wanted to talk about keywords. So let's go look at a job opening and talk about what would be keywords in a job opening. And here's the deal. Here's the secret. Your resume should be tuned for every job you apply to. You never want a generic resume. It won't work. It simply won't work in today's world. You want to create every resume or tune every resume to the specific job opening you're sending that resume to. How do you do that? You'd use something like this. You go ahead and type in the title that person, that company is looking for. You get an automatic resume and you check the keywords. If you're going to use LinkedIn, you might have to try premium to get all the keywords. But then you will see what LinkedIn says is how you would structure that resume and the keywords that are important for that job role. Then you'll tune your resume to match those needs and then send that out. It's not an easy process. And some people, they feel like getting jobs should be easy, that the employer should just bow down to their skill set and hire them. And no, that's not true anymore. HR creates this barrier between all the job applicants coming in and then all the people who make decisions, the engineers and plant managers and that sort of thing who make the decision. They don't ever get to see the resume until those resumes have gone through this gauntlet. And the only way you're going to be able to get a job that's specific to a particular skill set is make sure you've loaded in enough keywords. And even if, I'm going to tell you straight, even if they're not using software to filter out the resumes, a lot of time these HR people don't know enough about a topic to understand that, say, coding is PLCs, right? They may not know the word coding, right? Instead, they want to see PLC, parenthesis, programmable logic controller experience, right? So that's the kind of thing that you have to develop here. So let's go dive into a job role. Let's go back to our job role. And let's take a look at how we pick out some keywords. So we're going to go dive into this job. All right, I'm trying to figure out how to make this bigger, but maybe it won't get bigger. Let's slide this. Oh, that's a little bit bigger. All right, so in the opening, you see some of the very basic information. This is the generic LinkedIn profile. You see a pay scale, and usually the pay scale is a little bit meaningless. It gives you a ballpark, but in this case, they're saying pay based on experience. So you can make as little as 22 for entry level, as much as 34. Type job, full-time, shift schedule, 8-hour shift, Monday through Friday, with overtime available. So they go through your benefits, which is useful. They say at the top, pay will be based on experience. All right, so now we're going to start looking for our keywords. Previous mechanical and electronic controls experience. So the keyword phrase here is mechanical and electronic controls. That's extremely important keywords. Let's go down and find some more. Passion for technology and innovation, solutions for electrification, networking, automation to commute. So they're talking about their business as a whole, which is pretty awesome. Passionate and welcoming people. Yeah, for the most part, I would say Phoenix is pretty welcoming, pretty diverse. Recognize people as our biggest asset. I think everyone says that. That's generic HR speak. Technical production performance. Equipment management implementation. So here's some more keywords. Technical production performance. So you might say production performance. Oh. And training. So this is a training position too. That's interesting. So training also becomes a keyword if you have experience doing any kind of training. Equipment management and equipment implementation, both are also keywords. The ability to implement a new piece of equipment, i.e. get it installed, turned on, and running. And if you're in this program, there's a lot of that. We put together a lot of PLCs and get them running. So you will. So once again, production, performance, training, resources. There's not any good keywords in there. Monitor and analyze equipment performance. So analyze, there's a keyword, but you might want to use analyze equipment. Troubleshoot, there's troubleshoot. That's a very, very important keyword. You absolutely have to make sure that's somewhere in your resume. And if anybody comes through our program, they've learned troubleshooting in PLC class. They've seen it in motors controls class. They've seen it in fluid power. There is a lot of different classes you're going to get troubleshooting experience in. Right, Tyler?
Yep, a lot of troubleshooting.
Thanks, Tyler. I'll pay you the $1 later. So let's look at some of the keywords in here. All right. PXC machine build. Now they throw out occasionally a brand name or a system name like PXC. And if you know what that is, definitely include in your resume. That should be an important keyword. If you don't know what that is, just let it go. Machine qualification testing, another very important term. That means that you've been able to fire up a machine and verify it meets all requirements. A lot of times technicians will do this when they first get equipment delivered to the plant. That brand new equipment needs to be plugged in. It's going to arrive with some instructions and some training, and then somebody needs to make sure it fires up properly and then train operators once they've learned that it's running properly. Spare parts and maintenance, preventative maintenance, these are all good keywords. Technical support, very important keyword. They also want this person to be a backup operator. All right. So the rest, it looks like specific requirements, job requirements. So if I were to put this resume in, I would want to make sure that I had a 2-year mechatronics degree or mechanical engineering degree, at least. Now, it doesn't mean you have to only submit this once you've achieved your degree. If you're in process on your degree, sometimes they'll hire you at a lower rate, and then once you get your degree, they'll bump your rate up. All right, now let's talk about some technical terms. Down here, I see some PLC communication buzzwords. These are technical descriptions. The HR person won't have a clue what any of these buzzwords mean. Most of you won't know what these buzzwords mean, except for maybe Ethernet IP. Some of you should know what that is. All of these are communication networks for different kinds of automation. Communication networks for different kind of automation. And we don't teach, I don't think, any of these in our mechatronics program. Mostly the only way you get any kind of deep experience in these communications is you've got to get them on the job. Obviously, there is some training out there for each one of them that you can get. But as a normal program, a normal 2 or 4 year degree isn't going to dive into these for you for the automation world. I mean, if you're in the programming world, say you become a network technician for PCs or for mainframes, then they have their own set of buzzwords for these communication profiles, and they actually provide you more. They might have a whole class on this topic. PC and Windows software. Now, a lot of you guys have experience on Windows using Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You should say that. Put that in your resume. That's a key term as well. Very important. Engineering drawings, another key term. If you are familiar with engineering drawings, and you should be familiar at least with the ones we use in mechatronics, then you should be able to put that in your resume. For instance, a ladder diagram, you should know what that is. You should know a physical layout diagram. We learned about that in our power transmission class. And don't forget your soft words. Being a good member of a team, communication, these are also key words. Say, ability to communicate, work with others effectively, right? Ability to work independently, you probably don't have to worry about that, but sometimes people like to see that too, and so forth. And then at the bottom here, you're going to see the minimum job requirements. You have to lift 50 pounds. All that kind of stuff. And I think they put all these now in any kind of job that is a factory job, just to make sure that people don't apply for these positions who are disabled enough they can't do any of this. And there's a bunch of benefits, so no more keywords down there. Oh, looks like you guys have some really good benefits at Phoenix. Nice. On-site gym. Oh my God, the cafe at Phoenix, that is the best lunchroom food I've had anywhere in the United States, is in Phoenix.
You have not experienced lunchroom food. I have so many complaints about that cafeteria's food. It is ridiculous.
Really?
Nobody there likes it. At least not on second shift. No one.
Well, I was on first shift and it was delicious. It was delicious.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
I was
first shift gets
visiting.
it when it's freshly made. Second shift gets the leftovers that were sitting in the cooler. So, might be a world of difference, but from what I've seen, I pack my own lunch when I go to work.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty fancy and pretty delicious. It was like in these little airline-sized plates with lovely little entrees. It was quite good. When I was in Europe, I had a Swiss company I used to work for. We used to get, like when I was in France and in Switzerland, both of them had really great cafeterias. And that's what Phoenix reminded me of. Obviously, it's a German company. So I really enjoyed the food there. And I'm sorry if you guys on second shift. And maybe I do have low standards. I don't know.
Well, I have fat girl problems. I love flavorful foods. So, having the healthy alternatives that are not really seasoned or, are not cooked with butter or heavy cream or things like that, they really don't appeal to me personally. So
You're a foodie.
I am a food snob.
Okay. You've already challenged me to a cook-off, so I don't know. We might have to, I'll have to arrange something as we get through this semester.
I have a 20-pound brisket sitting in my freezer just waiting.
Oh, really? I don't think I have any brisket right now. Might have to go buy some. All right. Anyway, I think I've been recording all this. Let me stop the recording.